Here's why the Batman's deleted Joker scene is more important than you think. Riddle me this, riddle me that, man. Have you seen the latest deleted scene from The Batman? I'm so sorry. Anyway, last week, after a series of riddles on the alternate reality game tie-in website rataalada.com, Warner Brothers released a deleted scene from The Batman. And while it's understandable why most deleted scenes don't make the final cut, this one felt particularly weighty given that it was an intense meeting in Arkham Asylum between the Batman and none other than the Joker himself. While the scene wasn't actually in The Batman and doesn't necessarily spoil The Batman in and of itself, in order to talk about this in detail, we may touch on some spoilers for the movie. So if you haven't seen The Batman yet, or you're worried about that kind of thing, now's your chance to beat it. Alright, let's get into it, shall we? In a scene inspired in equal parts by Manhunter and Silence of the Lambs, Batman tries to get inside the mind of a serial killer like Riddler by speaking to another twisted murderer, in this case the Joker. Or, more accurately to one of the main Batman comics that influenced this movie, this scene evokes Batman seeking Calendar Man's help trying to crack the case in The Long Halloween. While the Clown Prince of Crime appeared in the final moments of The Batman and was credited as unseen Arkham inmate, here we see the Dark Knight's arch-nemesis in all of his grisly glory. With wisps of green hair, open wounds, and mounds of scar tissue, the Joker looks even more frightening than our brief glimpse in the film. As we mentioned previously, this version of the Joker with the bubbled, scarred appearance of his skin bears a striking resemblance to Frank Whiteley's cover art for the Joker #1. However, as Matt Reeves told IGN, this version of the Joker is also directly influenced by actor Conrad Veidt's performance and appearance in the 1928 silent film The Man Who Laughs. Based on the Victor Hugo novel of the same name, The Man Who Laughs is a long-standing inspiration for the Joker, especially in the Batman comics. And they really tried to take that character's essence and recontextualize it in a new way in this scene. Now, I'll bet that many of you are probably asking the same question right now. Where are they? No, not, why would you? Anyway, this question.
You wanna know how I got these scars?
As it turns out, Barry Keoghan's Joker didn't fall into an OSHA-violating vat of chemicals on a stormy Gotham night. He didn't invent a Rashomon-esque series of stories about which family tragedy led to his signature smile. And it most definitely wasn't Maybelline. Rather, he was born with it. Speaking with Variety, Matt Reeves explained, "It's like Phantom of the Opera. He has a congenital disease where he can't stop smiling and it's horrific. His face is half covered through most of the film." Reeves further elaborated on this idea, adding, "What if this guy from birth had this disease and he was cursed? He had this smile that people stared at that was grotesque and terrifying. Even as a child, people looked at him with horror, and his response was to say, okay, so a joke was played on me, and this was his nihilistic take on the world." Now, Reeves isn't the first filmmaker to root Joker's signature smile and constant laughter in a real-world medical condition. With 2019's Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's downtrodden comedian Arthur Fleck has a condition known as pseudobulbar affect. According to the Mayo Clinic, that condition is characterized by episodes of sudden, uncontrollable, and inappropriate laughing or crying. Treated with scorn, fear, and derision by other denizens of Gotham in that movie, it lends an air of sadness to Phoenix's portrayal of the prototypical Clown Prince of Crime. Now, as for the Batman's version of Joker, Matt Reeves has not gone on record naming a specific condition that inspired this creative choice. And while I by no means am a medical professional, I did find two possible real-world conditions that could fit the bill. One is Angelman syndrome, and another is Mowat-Wilson syndrome. People with Angelman syndrome often exhibit frequent smiling and laughter and tend to have unusually fair skin with light-colored hair. Those with Mowat-Wilson syndrome also tend to have a smiling, open-mouthed expression as well. Of course, more likely than not, while rooted in reality, Joker's condition could be something invented purely for the purposes of this movie. As for the scene itself, it establishes something incredibly important both for the Batman and the future of the franchise. These two have history. They've clearly clashed during Batman's first year as Gotham City's caped crusader. When the Batman slides the Joker a stack of files about the Riddler case, Joker quips, "Almost our anniversary, isn't it? First anniversary is paper. What makes you think I'd come so cheap?" In the Batman Year One comics that helped inspire this movie, Joker doesn't play a major role. Rather, he's only alluded to towards the end of the story as a new criminal on the scene planning to poison the Gotham City reservoir. And that seems fitting given the development of Bruce Wayne as a masked vigilante and what we see of the Joker in this movie. While these two clearly have a twisted kinship and Joker is no slouch as a detective either, he doesn't seem to be the Clown Prince of Crime with a horde of goons like, say, the Penguin. Now, speaking with IGN, Reeves described Keoghan's version of the Joker as a pre-Joker Joker. Of the scene, Reeves said, he goes to see another killer that he's clearly had an experience with in these first 2 years. And this killer in this story is not yet the character that we come to know, right? So everybody's in their infancy. So in the comics, these characters often declare their alter egos in response to the fact that there's a Batman out there. And so here we have a Joker who's not yet the Joker. It's like the Muppet Babies version of murder, which now I kind of want to see that. Anyway, much more telling though might be the fact that while Batman correctly believes the Joker's murderous mindset might provide unique insight into Riddler's crimes, he doesn't realize how crafty the Joker really is. If you look closely during this scene, when the Joker returns the paperwork to the Batman, one of the paper clips is missing. Now, all signs point to that being Chekhov's paperclip, which will ultimately lead to Joker and potentially Riddler escaping Arkham to wreak havoc on Gotham City and the Dark Knight in some future film. It's like Clippy appears. Hey, you look like you're trying to break out of prison. Can I help you with that? Yes, you can, Clippy. Yes, you can. But speaking of the future, while it felt like an obvious setup for a sequel, writer-director Matt Reeves insists that including the Riddler and Joker's burgeoning friendship was not meant to be a direct indicator of what's to come. Speaking with Variety, Reeves said, I never was trying to say like, hey, guess what? Here's the Joker, next movie. The idea was more to say, hey, look, if you think that trouble's going to go away in Gotham, you can forget it. It's already here and it's already delicious. Not the term I would use to describe either of those gentlemen, but go off. Now, with that said, as we've mentioned in previous videos, there is a precedent for these two joining forces. In 2017's War of Jokes and Riddle storyline, for example, Joker and Riddler team up to take down the Batman during his second year of crime fighting. This unholy alliance, though, was ultimately torn apart because both of them wanted to be the one who kills Batman. One thing leads to another, and they turn Gotham City into a war zone as they set their sights on each other rather than the Caped Crusader. And all of that sounds like fertile soil for a potential Batman sequel, but I wouldn't expect that to be the next place we see the Joker pop up. Speaking with Variety, Reeves also mentioned that Joker could next appear in the recently announced Arkham Asylum-inspired HBO Max series, and that's seemingly replacing the one that was based on Gotham PD. There's stuff I'm very interested in doing in an Arkham space potentially for HBO Max. There are things we've talked about there, so it's very possible. It also isn't impossible that there is some story that comes back where Joker comes into our world. As for a proper sequel to the Batman, Reeves has gone on record saying that he is fascinated by the prospect of exploring a character like Mr.Freeze. During a Q&A that Nerdist took part in, Reeves said, in my view, I just feel drawn to finding the grounded version of everything. So to me, it would be a challenge and an interesting way to try and figure out how that could happen, even the idea of something like Mr.Freeze. That's such a great story, right? I think there's actually a grounded version of that story which could be really powerful and could be really great. Now, for what it's worth, we've already seen a grounded version of Mr. Freeze's tragic backstory before.
Yes!
No, obviously not that one. I'm talking about the genius scientist doomed quest to cure his wife's terminal illness from the Emmy Award-winning episode of Batman the Animated Series Heart of Ice. Clearly that one.
Chill.
Taking a story like that and adapting it to Reeves's grimy, slimy version of Gotham City could make for a truly fantastic sequel. But let's get back to the Joker scene for just a moment. Consider the fact that this is a deleted scene. That kind of takes some of the wind out of the sails of an eventual canonical on-screen meeting between the Joker and Batman. Honestly, it might be better to wait until a third film of this potential Pattinson trilogy to explore that character further. Now, of course, with that said, I'll take any excuse I can get to spend more time in Matt Reeves' version of Batman, but sometimes it is better to wait, especially with a character like Joker, who's so overexposed in pop culture. Now, with that said, we'll keep you posted as we learn more about any potential Batman sequels or spin-offs or news concerning the Joker himself. For now, though, tell us, what did you think of this deleted scene? Did you spot anything that we missed? And what do you want to see from a Batman sequel? Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, make sure you stay tuned to Nerdist.com.